In this video, we will be going over sum and difference for sine, cosine, and tangent, and here are the formulas, and we will solve concrete problems. So if you have sine parentheses x plus y, it would equal sine parentheses x times cosine parentheses y plus cosine parentheses x times sine parentheses y. Now if you have sine parentheses x minus y, you would get sine parentheses x times cosine parentheses y minus cosine parentheses x times sine parentheses y. And with cosine parentheses x plus y, you would get cosine parentheses x times cosine y minus sine x times sine y. Cosine parentheses x minus y, you would get cosine x times cosine y plus sine x times sine y. And for tan, you could have tan parentheses x plus y, and that would equal tan x plus tan y divided by 1 minus tan x times tan y. And lastly, tan parentheses x minus y would give us tan x minus tan y divided by 1 plus tan x times tan y. And so we will solve these three problems here. So the first one, sine 60. Technically we can just go here and say it's going to be the square root of 3 divided by 2, but we want to use the sum and difference. So instead of doing that, let's say we have sine parentheses 30 degrees plus 30 degrees. Now for these two problems, it's critical to know the sum and difference. And so the second problem is cosine 15 degrees, and the third one is tan 75 degrees. And so if you want to pause the video and attempt these problems, feel free. And so the first one, I will say sine parentheses x plus y and use that formula. And so instead of saying 60 degrees, I will say 30 plus 30 degrees. And let's try this formula. So we would get sine 30 times cosine 30 plus cosine 30 times sine 30. We know that sine 30 is 1/2, and we know that cosine 30 is going to be the square root of 3 divided by 2. Plus cosine 30 we said is going to be the square root of 3 divided by 2, and sine 30 we said is 1/2. And so if you multiply it out, you would get the square root of 3 divided by 4 plus the square root of 3 divided by 4, and you add them up, you get 2 square root of 3 divided by 4, which is the square root of 3 divided by 2. And we can always check, sine 60 is the square root of 3 divided by 2. And so that's a match. And now for these problems. So we don't have 15 degrees in this table, but we have 60 degrees and we have 45 degrees. So I could say cosine parentheses 60 minus 45, which is 15 degrees. And so we would get cosine 60 cosine 45 plus sine 60 sine 45. And so cosine 60 we know is going to be 1/2, and cosine 45 will be the square root of 2 divided by 2, and sine 60 is going to be the square root of 3 divided by 2, and sine 45 will be the square root of 2 divided by 2. If you multiply it out, you get the square root of 2 divided by 4 plus the square root of 6 divided by 4. And so we can say that cosine 15 degrees is equal to the square root of 2 plus the square root of 6 divided by 4. And now for the last problem, tan 75. So there's no 75 in this table, but there is 30 and 45. So we can say tan parentheses 30 plus 45 degrees and use this formula here. So we would get tan 30 plus tan 45 divided by 1 minus tan 30 times tan 45. We know that tan 30 is going to be the square root of 3 divided by 3, and tan 45 is 1. Divided by 1 minus tan 30 we said is the square root of 3 divided by 3, and tan 45 is 1. And so if we get a common denominator, so here is a 3, so I can say plus 3 divided by 3. Here is also a 3, so I can say 3 divided by 3. And so I would get 3 plus the square root of 3 divided by 3, the whole thing divided by 3 minus the square root of 3 divided by 3. Instead of doing division, which might be more difficult, I can do multiplication. So I can say times 3 divided by 3 minus the square root of 3. And so if you notice, this 3 and this 3 can cancel, and we would get the square root of 3 plus 3 divided by 3 minus the square root of 3. Now if we want to remove the square root of 3 in the denominator, we can multiply by the conjugate and say times 3 plus square root of 3 divided by 3 plus the square root of 3. Because 3 plus square root of 3 divided by 3 plus the square root of 3 is 1. So we're not doing any changes. So 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times the square root of 3 is 3 square root of 3 plus 3 times the square root of 3 would give us 6 square root of 3. And then the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 would give us plus 3. And then in the denominator, we would get 9 minus 3. So we have 9 plus 3 is 12. 12 plus 6 square root of 3 divided by 6. We can simplify a little bit and get 2 plus the square root of 3 as our final answer. And that's pretty much it for this video.